Hey, remember that time like 5 years ago when things were so bad the only thing we could make shows about were mutual self-affirmation and running trailers for old bad movies?
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Well, good thing nobody's replicated the exact conditions for that to happen again. Anyway, here's some flashback shows. You know, I got hired here to do content at The Escapist after it had already been established the first time, many years ago, and honestly I had no idea then, and still have no idea why exactly the long now departed persons who named it that. I do know that since that point, it's usually been taken to have something to do with the value of escapism and entertainment and gaming in particular, and I know we try to lean pretty heavy on that definition currently, so I try my best to keep this series on the hey, here's interesting stuff track, particularly now that we're all, most of us, still in this situation where escaping isn't really something we can do, you know, with the lockdowns and the staying indoors and the masking and the global plague and such. So I almost feel guilty with the following ask, but the fact is I'm up against a deadline. I gotta get an episode out and there really isn't any ready-to-go good material in my pile right now, and I can't just blow off and eat up airtime like running the trailer for Raw Force as a gag.
Big John Taylor, mercenary, soldier of fortune. He's more than a man. He's a walking death machine. Candy O'Perrin, sexy undercover cop. Her deadliest weapon is her body. Mike O'Malley, Hollywood's top stuntman.
What do you want us to do?
Fight our champions.
Only this time, the action's for real. And Rick Chan, black belt, primed for action with one blow. The death blow. Only 2 words describe the power and fury of this unstoppable team. Raw Force.
So I guess this is where we once again break down and run the semi-serious, hey, let's get real about stuff check-in episode. Okay, so indulge me, I guess, and watch the soothing ocean footage. It's good for you, they tell me. I mean, I feel like this has to be okay to acknowledge once in a while as someone whose job on this show specifically is helping people distract themselves from and numb the pain of modern daily life with popular culture and nostalgia and such, that there's a point where even the most comfortable blanket of that stuff is itself sort of suffocating, and no matter how safe your fortress or suit of armor is, eventually it's healthy to want to be outside of it, or at least know at some point you can be. Now, that doesn't mean you start carrying machine guns to your governor's house and demanding they open up the Olive Garden again like a bunch of dumb yahoos, but I think it's okay to acknowledge that, fuck yes, I'm getting a little tired of my own surroundings and my own company, that one of the reasons I'm down to doing I had no idea bandwidth for today's show is partly because you can only change which room of the apartment is the writing room so many times before that trick stops working, and thinking about why having too little to do makes you more tired is actually another level of mental fatigue, and yes, I heard Henry Cavill might be Superman again after all, but no, I'm not doing 3 shows in a row about the Snyder Cut. You know what? Here is the rest of the trailer for Raw Force. Why not?
Join them as their carefree vacation cruise turns into hell on the high seas.
What was that?
Final port of call. Warrior Island, uncharted and unexplored.
We should not be here.
Burial grounds for martial arts masters from the past. Their resting place is defiled. They rise from the dead to avenge their honor. Who will win, the living or the living dead? Join John Dresden, Gillian Kesner, Jeff Binney, Raymond King, and Cameron Mitchell. As they band together with the incredible power of Raw Force, untamed and unleashed to kill.
But we are, after all, in this together, or at least most of us are supposed to be, whether we want to be or not. And it is important, above all else, to remember that as miserable and scary as this whole experience has been and continues to be for so many of us, at least we're alive. Hundreds of thousands of people are not, and that makes whatever odd complaining I could be doing here about running out of stuff to watch on Netflix, starting to actually resent my own hobbies and life surroundings because, really, this would be it if I never got to leave again, feel pretty small, actually. And unless some other disaster strikes the globe between now and the one already scheduled for November, it seems like we're inching toward, if not the other side of all of this, at least into another chapter. I Guess the Disney parks and such are going to try and start opening again in July. Not really sure if that's the smartest move or not, but I guess we'll all find out, and if so, that's a good bellwether for movie theaters and thus feature film production to start up again. You know, we can have stuff to cover again and talk about, and until then, this show and all the rest of the programming here on the channel will be doing our level best to give you something to escape with, even as every once in a while I may need to have a tiny bit of I'm getting a little tired of this energy escape myself. But I don't just want it to be about or for me, and frankly, I wouldn't have typed all this up if I didn't have a point to leave all of you with, and it's this. It's okay for you not to be okay right now too, because all of this is not okay. These are bad times. Bad things are happening. And look, I'm not going to get specifically political here, but they probably didn't have to be this bad or this badly managed, I'll just say that. And even though we're all trying to put best foot forward about it, whether it's content creators like me still doing our shows, or you, me, and everyone else cracking ironic jokes on social media, doing TikTok gags, trying to make the one part of the house people can see on the Zoom window look nice and clean, it's okay to still be annoyed or anxious or sad or lonely or bored or frightened or angry or just so damn tired. Whatever you're feeling is probably okay, because the rest of this seriously isn't. And just know that for as long as we're all not okay together, I guess the only thing I can promise to keep doing is making more stuff to give you a few maybe sort of okay minutes out of the week. And that's what I'll keep doing. Probably not always like rerunning the trailer for Raw Force, but I hope you found that funny. And next week I'll have more fun, interesting things to show you. And yeah, sure, okay, we'll talk about Henry Cavill being Superman again maybe at some point, when there's actual news and not just people gossiping on websites to keep their clients' names in the press. Because that's mostly what that is. Which I guess is a long and snarky way of saying, okay or not okay, we will continue to get through this together. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture. Okay, so may you live in interesting times, huh? As ever, finding escapism in uncertain times is challenging and can feel almost inappropriate, but there's also such a thing as decompressing, if only for 90 minutes at a time. So, in a recent video, I invited a measure of levity by running clips from the trailer for a famously not good but unintentionally funny movie called Raw Force.
Big John Taylor, mercenary, soldier of fortune. He's more than a man. He's a walking death machine. Candy O'Perrin, sexy undercover cop. Her deadliest weapon is her body. Mike O'Malley, Hollywood's top stuntman. This time the action's for real. And Rick Chan, black belt. Only 2 words describe the power and fury of this unstoppable team. Raw Force.
Which people seem to really enjoy, and even with some of the world reopening, I know everyone's binge fest needs are still quite needy. So, okay, bad, odd, or just weirdly obscure action films out there in the general streamable world? Alright, here's a handful I know of. You ever watch Full House and wonder, hey, before he was doing a parody of 80s tough guys as Uncle Jesse, did anyone try to have John Stamos do the real thing in a movie? Yeah, they did.
John Stamos is Stargrove.
Blanche Stargrove.
And Never Too Young to Die is the reason they didn't again. This one definitely falls into the funny because it's bad camp, because the actors aren't good, it's sloppy, it goes on forever, and the obvious gag of George Lazenby playing Stargrove's father, making this a wink-wink, unofficially the son of James Bond franchise starter.
The new American hero.
Go!
He inherited all of his father's enemies. And just one of his friends. Vanity is Danja.
Give me the
Gene Simmons is Ragnar.
Yeah!
The sting of death.
Stargirl!
Means it's mostly just an isn't this guy cool setup for sequels that obviously never happened. Oh, and also Gene Simmons' bad guy is like a fairly unpleasant transphobic caricature even for the era, so, you know, maybe watch this one like after Pride now that I think about it.
For every superstar, there is that magic moment of discovery and world acclaim. There was a time for Steve McQueen, for Clint Eastwood, for the legendary Bruce Lee. Now is the time for Joe Louis, the new martial arts champion and film superstar. He is the Jaguar. Jaguar lives.
Joe Louis was the martial arts champ Bruce Lee called the greatest karate master in the world and was supposed to be the guy he fought in Return of the Dragon, but they had a personal falling out of some kind. Chuck Norris did that movie instead and became a charisma-free movie star and pop culture fixture we can't get rid of no matter how badly we may want to. So Louis had to settle for, well, actually, he continued to be an incredibly respected figure in the world of karate, refining his full contact interpretation of the style to a point where he's widely recognized as the father of the sport of kickboxing in the West, and one of, if not the prototypical mixed martial arts progenitors, and the character model inspiration for Ken Masters in the Street Fighter games. Jaguar Lives does not exactly make a strong case that we missed out on a great film career from him.
Jaguar Lives, starring Christopher Lee, Donald Pleasance, Barbara Bach, Joseph Wiseman, Woody Strode, John Huston as Ralph Richards, and introducing Joe Louis as the Jaguar.
But it tries very hard at not making that case.
Not just one, or two, or three, or four, but 5 deadly martial arts commandos. Force 5.
Joe Louis is also incidentally known for at least one other movie, which is not, as far as I can tell, readily available to stream anywhere easily, and for a long time was pretty difficult to get your hands on, though there are Blu-rays out there now, called Force 5, which has basically the same starting setup as Raw Force and every other send people to the Kung Fu Island movie that borrows its premise off of Enter the Dragon.
Reverend Ree is the leader of a worldwide church with a very large following of dedicated young people. I thought it was more of a cult.
Their assignment, rescue the programmed youth and overcome the island's stronghold.
But with the novel turn of, hey, what if they're all the karate guy?
Joe Louis, 3-time international karate grand champion. Richard Norton, world's foremost martial arts weapons expert. Benny the Jet Urquidez, world full contact welterweight champion. Sonny Barnes, California heavyweight karate champion. Master Bong Suhan, 8th degree black belt.
Except for the woman.
He has the leadership. He has the strength. He has the speed. He has the skill. And she has everything else.
Turkey Shoot was also released in some regions as Escape 2000, and was an early one from Australian exploitation legend Brian Trenchard Smith that ambitiously mashed up Running Man, Mad Max, Most Dangerous Game, and a couple others into an outback dystopian sci-fi thing.
It is 1995.
Open season!
Hunting is the national sport, and people are the prey. The world is ruled by a strict regime.
They're going to make obedient little citizens out of us.
Whoa.
Society.
All you have to do is lead my guests on a chase for one day.
Please take me with you. Don't leave me here.
The hunters and the hunted. The quick and the dead.
Oh, shit! Oh.
Memorable? Oh, definitely, yeah. Does it work? I mean, compared to what?
Who will survive the Blood and Thunder shocker of the year?
The Zero Boys. Dawn. of a new breed of heroes.
Oddly overlooked in its day, from maverick Greek multimedia auteur Nico Mastorakis, The Zero Boys is one of those 90% premise B movies where you can't quite believe this hasn't been done a bunch more times than just this. It's another Texas Chainsaw riff where a bunch of people in the woods take shelter in the wrong cabin and find themselves menaced by a group of psychotic backwoods human-hunting serial killers, but this time the unlucky campers happen to be a dopey but not stupid team of local paintball champions who also happen to be armed with some very real guns of their own.
The hunters become the prey. The blood is no longer paint. The time to fight back is now.
So it's a slasher crossed with a shoot-'em-up. And yeah, there's literally nothing else to it other than being, yeah, well, if I went to Leatherface's house, I'd have an Uzi and then see what he'd do. The movie, but like it commits to it. Okay, so next time you need to cool down a bit, maybe one of these might be of some help to you. Remember, folks, we're all in this together. Or we should be. I'm Bob, and that's The Big Picture.